Yes.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. We'll call the Village Board of Oregon meeting to order for Monday, August 5th, 2024. I'll ask the clerk to call a roll.
Higgins,
Here.
Kirchdorfer,
Here.
Mankey,
Here.
McDaniel,
Here.
Peterson, and Van Campen.
Here.
And Beshan is absent this evening.
Thank you. Item 3, approval of July 15th, 2024 Village Board meeting minutes, if correct, and corrections and mistakes, if any. Staff recommendation. Motion to approve, Tom and Tim. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, public appearances, comments, communications, item for discussion and/or possible action. A, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. Under the open meetings law, this agenda item allows the board to receive information, to ask questions of a presenter, facilitate a better understanding of the information. Board members may discuss procedural matters relating to the information, such as whether the information may be directed to staff, referred to committee, or placed on a future board agenda. However, board members may not expand their discussion beyond such procedural matters. 15 total minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Otherwise, the agenda will proceed as posted. Do we have anyone here for public comments? Public comments? Seeing none, thank you. Item B, 4B, presentation from Nathan Zwig regarding, sorry? Thank you, sorry. I introduced myself to Nathan. I should have asked him how to pronounce his last name. Regarding the Prairie Mound Cemetery Maintenance Eagle Project.
All right. Go ahead and have a seat. All right, I told Nathan I would sit up here just in case you guys started to throw stuff and at him, and I'd help deflect some of that, but go ahead and pull the microphone up. And so I just would like to introduce Nathan Zweig. He is an Eagle Scout candidate. Not unusual that we get Eagle Scouts come to us with wanting to finish out kind of their long scout career. And Nathan approached me with a desire to be able to work in the Prairie Mound Cemetery. And as you know, if you've followed throughout the years, we've done a couple projects up there. So today, what I usually like to do is ask the scout. I think it's an important part of their badge earning to be able to understand kind of the process of how this goes. So we do ask them to come before the board. A lot of them, when I ask them, look at me and like it's a very scary thing. I've told them that you're all nice and that most of you guys don't bite or anything, so that's good. And so he will be here tonight to just kind of present his project and see if you have any feedback or encouragement for him. So, and just when you speak, you want to be just a few inches away from the microphone. I'll pull up your thing here. All right. No, I have it here. Up here. Yeah.
Okay.
You're good. Just why don't you tell us about why you want to do this project?
I want to do this
There we go.
project because it makes the cemetery look better taken care of, and it shows the people living here that we care about citizens after they've died.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the on the first slide there, kind of what you're going to talk about tonight.
I'll be talking about the
Okay.
area needing
Could you
work.
pull the mic?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll be talking about the area needing work, the materials and tools needed, the project cost breakdown, the safety issues, and the schedule.
Okay.
The area needing work is Sector 1, the oldest part of the cemetery. And
Why don't you talk about why you think those are?
those will be working on areas like that because the headstones are leaning a little bit and are tipped over, and stuff like that.
Yeah, just as a little background information, Section 1 is our oldest part of our cemetery. Many of those families are historical families within our village, but not necessarily anymore have, family in the area that would, rarely do you see flowers and stuff being put up there just because you just don't see families connected to those graves anymore. And as a result, you can see time and freezing conditions and everything do cause, it's real noticeable when you get up there, isn't it? Yeah.
And the supplies will need our food for the volunteers, paper towels, garbage bags, work gloves, water, hand sanitizer, and a first aid kit. And the materials and tools are the headstone cleaner, the aggregate and gravel, the monument jack, monument block, level, shovels, rags, and brushes, buckets, spray bottles, and grass clippers. And the monument jack is $500, and the monument block is $550.
Why don't you describe, don't go, stay on that one there, why don't you describe kind of how this type of thing works, or why do we need it?
It works by the
Kind of a lever, I think.
yeah, the lever, and you push the lever down to raise one side, and you put the block in, and then that's one side raised, and then you do the same thing on the other side.
Yeah, it allows you, it's really kind of cool. He brought this to my attention. It's really kind of a neat device, especially on, like you can see here, this Thatcher burial, which is not up in our area, hence the mountains in the background here. But actually, I think this is out from near the Salt Lake area, so that's probably the Front Range there. But this is kind of a neat device. It does allow you to stick it in next to the grave, and it's very strong. It's almost like a pry bar, but it's got some, I don't know, it's just the way it's set up allows you to kind of lift up that side, but then you have to be able to safely retain it. And the video, he showed me a video that then allows you to kind of work underneath it.
Yeah.
Yep. And do we have that yet? Yeah, yeah. So we got that ordered, and that's here for ready to go. All right.
And the estimated cost of the materials are $80 to $100. And the supplies are $75 to $125. The tools are $1,150, and the estimated totals are $1,305 to $1,375.
Typically with our projects, with Eagle Scout projects, we will, especially if it's buying tools or things we're gonna reuse on a reoccurring basis, we do have a budget for our cemetery that does allow us to buy tools and stuff like that. And so we're usually happy to help with them and purchase these kind of tools to be able to give them that ability. Because you don't really want to use this afterwards, do you? Okay. Not very often. You're not going to turn this into a lifelong passion? Okay. Maybe you can be public works director, then it'll be lifelong passion. There you go. All right.
And the safety issues and solutions. For safety issues, we have sunburn, heat exhaustion, dehydration, heavy lifting, chemical exposure, working with rough material, and insect bites and stings. And for solutions, we have sunscreen and shade, water, teamwork, and using the correct tools, gloves, and a first aid kit. The timeline is June. We're getting approval from the village, which is right now.
Tonight.
Yeah.
If
July.
they say no, we're in trouble, by the way. Yeah.
Just think of something else.
We'll think of something else. Good thinking.
July is fundraising and planning. August is collect the necessary supplies and tools, and the completion day is in September of 2024. Okay.
And you'll be organizing a workday for that with other scouts, I believe, on a Saturday, September 14th. Maybe we'll be able to get some people out there, but you help organize all of that. And then we may even follow up with some additional stuff afterwards, maybe an afternoon afterwards, where I'll be able to bring some staff and equipment down there and be able to help them out as well with some of the larger stuff that we can't do.
You guys have any questions?
Lynn, please.
Nathan, how many of these do you think you're going to need to reset? Do you have an estimate on the number of headstones that you think you're gonna adjust?
As many as possible, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. When we did the last project, we were able to do maybe 6 or 8 rows.
Oh, wow.
Which was really nice. And then kind of this front area, and we're able to take out some big brushes and trees here. But yeah, I think some of it is there's some huge monuments, and obviously that's not something that even the jack we have can do. But you'll notice on some of these, like this one may be a little tricky, but you can also easily address the small ones to the side that say son and mother and father and everything. And maybe that's something where our crews will come back, be able to handle this, but if you look at, see these, there's a lot of them, along here that, so it's kind of hard, and it also depends on, some go easier than others, right? Yeah.
Tom?
Did you say you already have the monument, Jack, and that's coming out of the village budget, out of the public
Cemetery
works?
budget, yeah.
Cemetery
Yeah.
budget.
I ordered that just so we would have that
Well,
ahead
it
of
makes
time
sense, but,
to be ready for their project, yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, very nice presentation. It was very clear and good job.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess we should have a motion to approve the project. Tim and Lynn. I don't think there'll be any discussion, so all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Nathan.
Sometimes I
you.
even
Good
ask
job.
them to come back later and give us a report how it went, but we'll see how that goes, right?
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, Nathan, when you get your time for September, send it out to us, because maybe we'll stop by and
Yeah.
I've never straightened a headstone, and I feel like maybe I should add it to my
That's a
list of
s-
skills.
A skill everyone should have.
I think so too, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you for your help, Jeff. Okay, item 4C, public hearing on applications for Class B fermented malt beverage and regular reserve Class B intoxicating liquor alcohol beverage licenses. The following public hearings allow members of the public to provide information to the village board related to the subject at hand. Members of the public who desire to speak on the topic may be requested to complete and file a registration form with the village clerk to assist in keeping an accurate record of the proceedings. A time limit of 3 minutes per speaker is set unless otherwise modified by the village board. Comments from the public are encouraged to be concise and germane to the topic at hand. Individuals are encouraged to refrain from personal attacks. In the interest of avoiding repetitive testimony, individuals and groups with the same viewpoints are encouraged to appoint a spokesperson. Written testimony in the term of verbal testimony may be provided at the village clerk and accept until noon today. All written testimony will then be forwarded to members of the village board, enter the board's proceedings, may not be read at the meeting. So the procedure here is, for a public hearing, is we'll open the public hearing, we'll hear any comments from staff if they have any. We'll have the applicant come up if they have any comments. Then members of the public, if they wish to speak to the matter at hand, then we'll close the public hearing. Then we'll do that again for a second public hearing. So we'll start with 4C1, which is public hearing for application for regular Class B intoxicating liquor license submitted by Pro Artive LLC, doing business as Bad Art Company, located at 787 North Main Street, Suite 105. Applicant currently has a Class B fermented malt beverage license. Any comments from staff?
I'm here for any questions. The process is kind of outlined in Joy's memo there. And yeah, here for any questions.
Okay. And then if the applicant would come forward, please, Beth. Or Emma, I'm sorry. And feel free if you have a
Hello.
comment.
Yes, I have brief comments. I'll try anyways. Do I need to state my name and address?
Please.
Yes, I'm Emma Dellinger. I live at 5021 West Netherwood Road here in town. First of all, thanks. Good to see you all again. Bad Art Co. is now open. Yes. So for reference, we are a community-focused art studio. We offer a huge variety of opportunities for acrylic painting, watercolor, oils, mixed media, and more. And in addition to classes, we offer open studio whenever we're open, so you can make independent art anytime. I'm a longtime resident of Oregon. I grew up here, and I'm now raising my family here, and I'm extremely committed to contributing positively to Oregon. I am empowered with the knowledge that creativity is crucial to humanity, and it's a connecting and healing force. That said, we all know that independent art businesses often struggle to keep their doors open. In order to fulfill our mission of being an accessible and inclusive art space, our art studio also features a shop and beverages. While having a bar is not our primary purpose, it is a crucial way for us to make sure we can pay our bills and be able to offer excellent opportunities for painting and more at a cost that people can afford. We do have our Class B beer license, and we're seeing a lot of demand to add a small cocktail menu to our offerings. The approval of the regular Class B liquor license would be huge in ensuring that we can stay open. Besides the direct benefit to my business, there's a couple other noteworthy reasons why we should get this license. Primarily is location. There are already several Class B liquor licenses in the downtown, south, southeast, and west sides of town of Oregon, but there's nothing on the north side, which is where Bad Art Co. is. It's good for the local economy to spread out the licenses, especially as we continue to grow. And additionally, our business model is not centered around alcohol, so we're far less likely to have excessive drinking or possible dangerous behaviors that can be associated with drinking, especially in food and beverage establishments. So finally, I would like to note that I've been inquiring about this license since the end of November of last year. And though there's no formal protocol that I understand, it would be logical to use that date of inquiry as a deciding factor in this. Thanks for seeing me again, and I just wonder if anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you. Anyone? Not at this time. Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any members of the public wish to speak at the application, speak to the application before us? Anyone? Okay, thank you. I'll close that public hearing. We'll move on to the next public hearing, 4C item 2. Public hearing for application Class B fermented malt fermented beverage and regular or reserve Class B intoxicating liquor license submitted by Corralejo 2 Mexican Grill LLC, doing business as Corralejo 2 Mexican Grill, located at 135 South Main Street. I think staff comments would be the same as Candy has outlined before. She's here for questions. Do the applicant like to make a statement, or? State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Talia Leon. I'm living in Dodgeville. My address is 114 West Chapel Street. we come to here to Oregon to have another option for the people to come to enjoy a restaurant. We have the first location on Dodgeville, and this is the second location. We're looking to have approved the liquor license, to have like complete menu for the people to come and enjoy the food with the drinks. Our menu has margaritas, cocktails, beer, wine, and our hours is 7 days of the week. Most of the days is 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is the regular hours. And we have on menu some options for the lunch time and the dinner time. The lunch time is, the menu is from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. But we serve it the whole menu all day. So if it's in case somebody likes something else, our menu have a vegetarian options. If it's in case some people don't eat any meat. This is a family restaurant. It's only for my husband and me. And we are really excited to come to here and bring another different option of the Mexican restaurant. And I don't know if somebody have any question for us.
Questions for the applicant? Not at this time, I guess. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
I noticed that on your application, you thought that alcohol, like marketing, was going to be like 50% of your marketing budget. I didn't know if you were planning on advertising drink specials or what that was for.
Yes, more on the other location we have a Thirsty Tuesdays, and the Thirsty Tuesdays is the margarita for sale, so it's only $5 for the medium size. So this is why we're at 50%. But most of the business is for the food.
Sure. So 50% of your marketing budget is for advertising that? I thought maybe I misread the application. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, that's all. Where did it say that?
You have a
Looking for-
page on there?
That's what I was looking for.
It's on the,
where-
it's on the
It's like
supplemental.
page 49 of the
Thank you.
packet.
Page. Oh, yeah. So like it asks what percent of your advertising budget do you think will be food related and what percent will be drink related? And so,
We put in 15 and 15 because it's together. When you come to the restaurant, most of the people buy drink together with the dinner. So this is why I put in 15 and 15.
okay.
But for example, the lunchtime don't sell too much alcohol. Is more for the dinner time.
Sure. Okay.
Anyone else?
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Okay, are there members of the public, any members of the public wish to speak to the application before us? Anyone? Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing. Move on to village board discussion, potential action on the application. Joy has provided us with some potential options or others that you may have come up with yourself, but one option would be to choose which application to consider first based on the application we received. The board could use a roll call vote to grant a regular Class B license to the applicant receiving the greatest number of votes. The other options are grant a reserve license to one and a regular license to another, take no action. How would the board like to proceed? Anyone?
I
Tom?
have a question and clarification. So there's 4 currently Reserve B, Class B license holders. What would be the ramifications if they applied for regular? Would there be a refund back to them or an advantage for them in doing so?
No, there isn't, a refund back to the reserve, but, typically, the biggest thing about a regular Class B license is the cost. But Class B, regular license can also be beneficial in transferring the license, like if they outgrew a space within the village, they could move that license to the new establishment. But with the reserve, you can't transfer a license.
Jason?
Well, first of all, I want to say I appreciate both businesses, and the state law seems kind of odd to me, and less than fair, but we're not in charge of that part. So I guess I would suggest, and curious about my other colleagues, what their thoughts are, but about granting one regular license, and then if the other person wants to go ahead with the reserve one, grant that one as well. I can go ahead with my thoughts on which should be which, but I'm gonna be quiet after to see if process is best first.
Mhm.
Oh, you want, or should I continue?
I would continue.
You would continue. Oh, great. I would, man, just not happy about having to make a choice, but I would recommend granting Bad Art Company the regular license because of the application date, which they mentioned, which was first, and second of all, because of the concentration, north side to south side. I agreed with that thought of that as well, and then granting the new restaurant reserve license, which I see in their application they have or, so it looks like they're open to that as well.
Okay.
And if I could just make one note, Coralejo will need a Class B beer as well. Okay.
Tim?
If what Jason just said is a motion, I'd second it.
Sure, I'll make that a motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is everyone clear on the motion? Please, Amanda.
Just a question, the Class B beer license, is that a different system than these reserves, or what
Yeah,
would that?
there's no quota on Class B beer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I want to make sure I understand the motion.
Yeah.
So, are you just working on Pro Artiv right now for the regular license?
it sounds like both.
Can we do both in one motion, or is it cleaner for you to do?
I would prefer two, just to
Okay,
little
so
clearer.
then just the Bad Art Company.
Just the Bad Art Company for the regular.
For the
the
regular
regular,
license.
Yes.
Okay,
And please correct me if you think, okay.
everybody clear on that? Tim?
And I'll second that.
Okay, so this
Okay.
is for the regular Class B intoxicating liquor license.
Okay.
Correct.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do you want to, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I could make the second motion, or motion part two, for the Coraleo 2 Mexican Grill to receive a reserve Class B intoxicating liquor license
And to Class B beer.
and a Class B beer.
Okay,
And I'll second that again.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
And that was Higgins again?
Yep. Yes. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you.
And to the applicants, we'll be in touch with you tomorrow. Okay? Both of you.
Thank you for coming in. Okay. 4D, presentation from Town and Country Engineering regarding the status of the wastewater treatment plant Phase 1 design. Hi, Ben.
Hey, guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe a little bit this way.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
So I'm not going to spend a ton of time tonight. Feel free to interrupt me as we go along if there are questions, jumping into everything. I guess just big picture, we wanted to update you on scope and where things are at with the design. We are approaching 60% completion on the design. We'll talk a little bit about schedule, but what that means is we're in progress to submit plans and specifications to DNR actually the end of this week, and are still on track both budget-wise and schedule-wise to put the project out to bid near the end of this year. As a refresher for everyone, I'm going to use a variety of renderings to kind of refresh everyone on scope. Scope of the project, this is phase one of actually 3 phases that was actually 4. One of them is completed that was done in the middle of the facilities plan. This is phase 1, which is basically a liquid side upgrade to your treatment plant. Phase 2, which is proposed for roughly 5 years from now, is a solid side upgrade to the treatment plant. And then phase 3 is the one we hope never happens, because you've done such a great job with your collection system that we don't have to do additional upgrades from a capacity standpoint. Right now, that phase 3 is specifically related to wet weather and clear water getting into your treatment plant or into your pipes in the collection system and taking up valuable capacity at the treatment plant. The way the treatment plant exists today, and if you guys are all watching my mouse hand, there is all of the flow coming into a small structure that's adjacent to the police station currently. Then that flows to this building with a white roof right here. That's called the Headworks building. These tanks right here are next in line. Those are all existing. Those are aeration basins. This building then has blowers. That was that first phase that happened roughly 3 years ago. We upgraded that building to include blowers. These 4 circles here are existing final clarifiers. This building here then has solids treatment. All of the solids that are generated are stored in the big blue tank that you can see right from the front of the campus. And then this building right here is your administration building. So this is North Perry Parkway right here, hockey arena, et cetera, yard waste site, just so you guys have kind of a scope and context here. So the plan for the project is we're going to be constructing a new structure on the far west end of the site. Sorry, I'm backwards here because we're looking from the north. That structure is going to be a new pumping station and new headworks. So that's where all of the wastewater from town will flow to that point. We'll be pumping it to the above grade portion of the structure that you can see here. We'll look at it closer in another view. That's replacing this structure and the one adjacent to the treatment or to the police station. Flow will still be passing through those aeration basins. We'll still be utilizing that existing blower building. But then instead of flowing to these 4 tanks here, we're going to be flowing to these 2 new tanks that you can see here. Those are final clarifiers. Part of this project is we're adding another pump station inside the plant. That's how we're gaining capacity in the treatment plant. So we're pumping this. These are about 12 feet above grade is the top of the wall there. Earlier discussions that we had, and I can't remember last time we did village board update if we had made this decision or not, had covers proposed for these tanks. After discussions with staff, those will actually be uncovered now and have a much smaller cover over just the flowing portion of those tanks, which will both save some money as well as reduce the visual impact of those tanks, since they're going to be quite a bit more visible than they were in the past. And then the last structure that's being constructed as a part of this project is this small structure right here. That was what the village board decided to add 2 or 3 years ago, where we're going to be disinfecting the wastewater prior to discharge to Badfish Creek. Continuing to scroll down just a couple other views. We've got those new structures. This is from basically directly above the yard waste site. There's that new structure, so now we're sitting kind of over towards the police station. And then this is what those new structures will look like. So I'm now having a view from the southwest looking at that new pump station and headworks building. So there will be a large, deep portion of the structure here that's about 35 feet deep. That's where all of the flow of the treatment plant will come. There will be 5 pumps located in that structure and pumped to the inside of this building, where we'll have a screen that'll remove trash and debris. And then this gray area on the outside of the structure is what's called a grit removal chamber, and that'll be removing inorganic sand and particles like that from the wastewater. All of that will be contained inside this structure and then conveyed to a dumpster that'll be picked up weekly. Early on, you may remember we had talked about this being the location of the main power service for the treatment plant and having a generator housed there. As a part of the design, I'm going to scroll back here a little bit, that did get redirected. So now instead of locating the generator on the far west side of the site, I'm hoping this works for me. Yep. The generator and main treatment plant service electrically will be coming into the existing blower building. That decision was made because it was a much easier to service location. There is available space in that structure where the original layouts here were getting fairly tight, and we actually would have had to make the building a little bigger than originally planned. And just physically, it kind of gets that generator out of a visible location on the site, where over here it would have been more visible from the park. So that building now is just serving as a headworks building. Here's that front view, so all of the trash and receptacle will be located inside the building here and then able to be rolled out on a weekly basis for trash pickup. These are those two new final clarifiers. Again, staircase to get up. It'll be pumping wastewater up here, so that also was set up to accommodate future growth in the village. So if we ever have to add filtration or other processes kind of between the final clarifier and the UV disinfection, we then have the ability to do that without further improvement. And then this is that last structure. So this is where the UV disinfection will go. Small building to house the control system, and then it quite literally just a 3-foot wide channel. This channel right here is all that's needed to do disinfection of all of your wastewater. It'll circle back and then flow out, and this will be where we take our final measurement of how many gallons we're treating and take a sample of that for compliance with DNR. And then last view-wise, this is right from the kind of center of the park here. So there is proposed landscaping. This is a rough rendering of it. We'll be including allowance and working with the village to decide exactly what you want for trees there, but basically to try and block some of that new structure. All of this that you would otherwise then see is existing structures, and based on our estimation, those trees will do a good job blocking the two new final clarifiers as well. Some of this info you've already seen as well, but we did go through an equipment pre-selection process. So we took bids on, I think that's 8 items there. 2 of those you guys haven't seen before, which was the UV disinfection and grit pump. Both of those had to be bid out at a later date. But basically, got some very favorable equipment numbers coming in. You can see an individual breakdown, but basically compared to budget, it's about $240,000 less than we had anticipated. I think all but one of the items was under budget, and the selected item for this mixing line was slightly over the original estimate, but there were quite a few advantages from a staff and a future treatment performance standpoint that provided a merit to go that direction. That said, then we did do early on in the summer a 30% cost estimate. So previously, the overall project, I didn't even cover this in the renderings. We also include Richards Road, so you can see the numbers there. So the Richards Road lift station, which is right there on the corner of Main and Richards by Dorn Hardware, is going to be part of this overall project. So the original budget, 29.64, we're, horseshoes and hand grenades at this point being 30% cost estimate, basically right on budget as estimated. We'll be doing an update to that later this month after we get DNR submittal done. And last thing to cover is just overall project schedule. So DNR submittal end of this week. We're going to be sitting down with staff to review plans and specs at the end of the month here. The project is being submitted to DNR for a Clean Water Fund funding as well. That along with, so it'll be a funding application for the treatment plant, Richards Road lift station, and Oak Street interceptor, which is, I'm not presenting on tonight, but that'll be part of the Oak Street reconstruction project. All will be submitted together for a Clean Water Fund. Then we're hoping, barring any confusion, that mid-November we'll be advertising, and mid to late December taking bids And then that'll spring into all of the real activity that everyone's gonna see, which will be about a 2-year construction period. The adver bid and bid, we'll have to gauge, with the village in terms of timing for DNR review. So the reason we're submitting to DNR August 9th, is they have a statutory, requirement to review within 90 days plans and specs, though they have been asking on larger projects like this for a 30-day extension. They have increased their staffing levels, so we're hopeful that they can get that review done faster, but would like to have review in hand or an approval letter in hand prior to taking bids. The other question mark will be if DNR has the ability to go through and process all of the funding applications by the time we want to bid. This is the first time in my understanding of the Clean Water Fund's history that there may be a situation where funding is not 100% available through the Clean Water Fund. It's very likely that you will receive funding for the treatment plant, in fact, almost assured. However, Richards Road and Oak Street may not be. So we will have to talk with you guys and staff as we get closer to that timeline in terms of whether you want to put it out to bid prior to knowing that. Not a ton of risk for you, because if you don't receive Clean Water Fund, the discussion that has been had at staff level is you'll just end up borrowing privately for something like that. And those are smaller portions of the overall project budget anyway. And that, I think, is it. Lauren, did I miss anything?
You did not.
I didn't keep track of time, Jeff. Did I meet my 5
11 minutes, nice work.
Yes, right.
I
Impressive.
wasn't, obviously.
Jason?
All right, just one question, and you answered one of them already. For the Clean Water Fund loan, the portion that we may not get funding for, is that because of a lack of funds, or is that?
Yes.
It
Yep.
is.
So basically, what the DNR does every year is they'll create a scoring list. So we submitted an intent to apply last October for all of these projects. That creates a scoring list, and normally, in any year but 2024, that funding list would be used to prioritize principal forgiveness, which is the DNR's form of grant funds. This year is the first time again ever that I'm aware of where they will likely run out of funds, and so that scoring list then it prioritizes who gets loan money and not as well. And treatment plant projects always score very high, which is why your treatment plant project is likely to get funds. Collection system projects do not. So, and Richards Road is considered a collection system project because it's a lift station in the collection system.
Thank you.
Tom, looks like he wants to
I
say.
guess would that substantially delay the project then for the Richards Road? It's just a matter of how we fund it.
It's just
then.
you would end up borrowing in a different fashion.
Amanda?
Can you remind me what happens to the buildings that the new buildings are replacing? Are we using those for storage? Are they getting
So-
torn down? What?
None of them are being torn down at this point.
Okay.
Is my understanding, unless Jeff tells me otherwise.
No.
So this building here, that will still house the chemical feed for your phosphorus. The balance of the building, which is about 75% of it, we're going to be gutting and turning into cold storage. The other structure that's not on the renderings here, but the existing influent pump station, my understanding is the police department will be taking that over as storage as well. So we'll be gutting all of the interior out of it, filling in the really deep part of it, and then they get it.
Okay, thanks.
But tell me, Ben, tell me a bit about the 5-year upgrade. Is that based upon a growth in population or required upgrades?
You're talking the phase 2?
Yeah,
That one was based on anticipated equipment longevity.
okay.
So the primary focus was getting the liquids treatment upgraded from a capacity standpoint. The headworks was predominantly related to some of the wet weather we had back in 18, and then that kind of trickled to making sense to do the entire thing. These, we anticipated that you could get another, at that time, 10 years out of the bulk of the equipment that was there, and then those would be reaching the end of their useful life.
Okay, and the budget for the wastewater treatment plant itself is about 27.5 million. Is the 5-year upgrade included in that number?
No, that's just phase 1. Yep.
Okay.
So the remaining balance, it was quite a bit smaller. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what that number was, but
We're
less than
talking
5 million, I think it was.
less than 5 million?
Ben, I can jump in and speak to this. Phil, that number is actually included in the CIP for the out years. I think it has design in 29 and about 6 million in 2030 for construction.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No. Okay, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
And Lauren. Okay, item 5, approval of vouchers in the amount of $1,914,433.74. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Jason. And Tom. Questions, comments? Tom, please.
Just one question on it's 5820 on the Monroe truck equipment on the plow package. Was that for the new truck?
Yes, yeah, that was for the, yes, that was for the new dump truck.
Okay, and then that'll be capitalized and it's a capital expenditure then?
Correct.
Just would it be tied to the life of the truck?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, it's roll call vote, please.
Higgins,
Yes.
Kirchdorfer,
Yes.
Van Campen,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Mankey,
Yes.
and McDaniel.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6, consent agenda. Staff recommendation, motion to approve these consent agenda items as presented. Items 6A through C. Looking for a motion. Jason and Amanda. Go ahead, Amanda. You have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I see every time like the senior center wants to close for part of a day, we have to approve it. Is that something we can just delegate as, I don't know. I mean, it just seems silly for us to have to approve a half-day training for staff. Like, is this, I'm just curious, procedural.
You can.
Yeah.
You can delegate it. I think it does serve, I think, as awareness.
Public awareness.
Maybe more so awareness than authority in my mind, where you're aware of it if you ever get questions on why was this closed? And you can say, we knew about that.
That's fair. I mean, I just was curious why it seems like we have something like this all the time. I mean, I'm okay with it either way, but it seems a no-brainer.
Okay, other questions? Tom?
Well, and Lauren just left, so I guess on the last one on the change order, is that project then complete?
Yeah,
Is
the
that just wraps
project
it
is
up?
complete. So this is just a final change order, and we end up with a $500 credit off of the, which doesn't mean we get $500 back. It just means the final payment is $500 less.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, reports of committees on for discussion or possible action. A, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. 1, Community Conversations Project. Presentations from committee members. Please come up. Your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Lina Lierus, address 335 Janesville Street. I am here as a member of the DEI committee, and I was going to be presenting together with my co-member Dan Dick, who sadly had some medical issues and is not able to be here today. But he actually sent me a written up intro that he was going to present to you, so I will first read that, and then I will follow from there. Okay. I'm not going to imitate his voice, but you can.
You can try if you'd like.
No. I had hoped to be with you in person this evening along with Lena Lee, but life doesn't always cooperate in ways we would like. I do thank you and greet you on behalf of the entire DEI committee. Nationwide, diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts have come under some attack as being politically motivated and progressively biased. However, the intention of this DEI committee on behalf of Oregon's Village Board has essentially one goal: to help make our Oregon community as strong, vital, and healthy as it can possibly be. To that end, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee seeks to do more than just work behind the scenes, making recommendations and proposals. We want to work collaboratively to offer concrete and tangible processes, programs, and solutions that benefit the entire community. One significant way we believe we can do this is by getting people talking to one another about our future. Our desire is to host a series of community conversations that will provide us with insight and information needed to strengthen the community fabric in Oregon. With the approval, support, and partnership with the village board, we would like to test a pilot project with board members, specifically focused on what it means to be community. The DEI committee worked on a process for the pilot project test that Lena Lee will share with you. It has no other agenda than to open up conversation, to stimulate thinking about the kind of community we want to be, and to provide a foundation for safe, respectful listening. With your approval, we will work to set and establish a date, time, and place where we can launch open and transformative conversations. And so I will briefly explain how we were thinking of what this community conversation would look like. So the process we have identified as a really good one for this, that Dan and others in the committee have experience with, is a forced choice selection, which basically means that people who are invited to be part of this particular conversation, which would be in this pilot project, the village board. So people who are there in the room would gather, then we would explain the process. And then we have about 5 to 7 statements that we will be reading, and those will be, each time that this happens, focus on different themes. But for this pilot project, our theme is related to what does it mean to live in a small town, because as DEI committee members expressed, they often hear phrases like, we just want to maintain Oregon as a small town. But if asked what is a small town to you, people weren't always able to answer. So some of the statements that we would be reading are things like, in small towns, people feel a greater sense of safety and security. Or in small towns, people are open to change. And then we will ask those gathered in the room to move to one side that is agree, or the other side that is for disagree. And then on each side, we also have a spectrum for strongly agree, or slightly agree. And then after each statement has been read and people have moved, we will ask them to pair up and share why they think this way. Do they have any examples for why this is like that? In some instances, we will ask people from opposing sides to pair up and talk about similar questions. And then after we have done this exercise, we will debrief together and see what people think about what they heard, what they learned, were their opinions different from what other people were thinking about small towns and small communities. Did they feel that they were heard and listened to? And what did it feel like in general? So this is kind of the process that we're imagining. Like Dan said, and like I said, this first conversation would be a pilot. So we would invite the village board members to be part of that. But then after that, we're imagining other parts of the community to be first maybe invited, and then we'll see if we want to open it up to broader community or not, and how that goes. And again, on different topics. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Lynn, please.
Thank you. That was really helpful to understand. And I think it's a great idea, especially the pilot. The one piece that I wonder about, and I don't need an answer about, but I would just want DI to be thinking about, is that invitation process. How will we invite? Simply because lots of the methods that we use to invite people already, we get the very same people. And although those voices are so valuable, I think especially in a community conversation, we're gonna have to get very creative about how those invitations are put out. And I'm glad that you guys are willing to take that on, because that seems like a challenge, but that would just be the thing I would be most concerned about. But otherwise, sounds exciting.
Thank you, and we'll take any recommendations and suggestions for such process. We have talked about definitely, for example, some teachers, students, parents, depending on topic, right, or other kind of focused groups that would be, but those groups are really easy to reach, and so it will definitely take some thinking on how to reach some other groups.
Tim?
So you bring a group of people together, you have a lot of conversation, it wanders off in a lot of different directions probably. What would be the output from that? Would there be a document created? Would there be thoughts shared that would be more broadly available to the community? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, thank you. So basically, we're envisioning that we have some people of us who are facilitating and then some who are moving around the room and listening to the conversations. And together, both facilitators and observers will write up some kind of a document or sort of observation report. We don't know yet exactly what format that should be, but we definitely don't want to just keep these answers to ourselves, but we want to use them in a productive way. And something that we've always been thinking about as we're having this conversation is quantitative surveys are really good too, to see sort of what people are saying about certain issues. But these kinds of qualitative sort of like interview-like activities can be really helpful to understand what questions people have that we might not have even been able to ask in these kinds of surveys. So that's kind of the goal of hearing what are people thinking, what are some things that they find lacking in the community, what are some issues they would like us to address, things that maybe we in the DEI committee too might not even think of. So the goal is really to hear and understand, take notes, and then see what we can, if there are any actionable items that come out of that, then we would like to act on them too. But yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, it sounds like we have good support here. We're looking for a motion for them to proceed, or you want to just plan it at this step?
So I just have one question,
Please.
I guess. So, so I understand you want to want to run a test of this idea with the board. And I just talked to Derek about this. So that would be an open meeting. So we'd have to have that. It would have to be open to the public to at least observe. They wouldn't have to participate. So if that's problematic, having that being open to the public, just for the purposes of, you're just testing this, that would be important to know.
Okay.
And if it is, then we just have to come up with some other idea for testing it.
I'll bring it to my committee. I think it should be fine though. Yeah.
You want some kind of action here, or do you want to just take it to the next step, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you guys are okay with it, you can either motion, say you're okay with it to proceed, or no objection, we can proceed
Jason?
without it too.
Or Lynn, you had another comment, please? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't know who was.
I was motioning.
Okay, so,
Okay, sorry.
so you're
Did
making
that first.
you're making a motion.
Well, I have a comment or question.
Okay, do the
actually.
question.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So while Martin brought this up, when you talked about doing a test pilot, is it just gonna be the board members, or is it is it the board members with other people involved? Because I feel like we're kind of a really small group to start as a pilot.
I think we talked about both the board members and perhaps also all the different committee members who would be invited. And obviously not everybody will be able to come, but we're imagining if we have 12 people in one room, that's great. If we have more, we could have 2 rooms. It's actually nice to have a smaller group than too large.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, I think Jason and Lynn were making a motion. Further discussion. The motion is for them to proceed.
To proceed, and yeah.
Got that? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, 7B, I'm gonna let Amanda jump in here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, 7B is Park Board. B1 is authorized submittal of grant application for UW-Madison Planning and Landscape Architecture 2024 to 25 capstone project for Conservation Parks master planning. Who wants to talk?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Why don't you start? And I'll
Sure.
add a few things.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the backstory very quickly about this is that in the park board, in our discussions on the CIP planning, we had a pretty focused discussion on what has been something that's sort of been continually pushed out a little bit, which is this conservation park area. So we're looking at a collection of, let's see if I can get all of these. A little bit of alpine, Keller Alpine, Lerner, DiMaggio, Dega, and Florida Avenue.
And West Side Park.
And West Side Park.
5 to 6.
I know. Which is an area that the park board would really like to see developed in more of a passive activity aspect, but really the planning and work on this is quite significant. And so when we moved the planning up in the CIP for next year, I decided to take it on as a pet project to see if I could find some funding for that planning. And unfortunately, there's very little funding out there for planning versus construction and implementation. So I talked to some people at CARPSI, and they pointed me to this program, which is essentially just a capstone program for UW-Madison graduate program for community development curriculum program. How many times can I say program? And so Jeff and Elise were so kind to jump in with me really quickly and get this application started. It's due by Friday. So if you're in favor of this, we would hope to throw it before the park board, which meets on Wednesday, make sure that they're good with it, and then potentially apply. It does not mean that obviously we would be granted this, but if so, then we'd get a team of graduate students who would come and do a good amount of the preliminary work, kind of taking that off of the shoulders of Jeff and Elise, hopefully, and at least give us a starting point as to where we could go in this area, what we would need, and specifically kind of what the site, what the community is looking at for this site. They could do a little bit of that work for us.
Just a couple other points to add or clarify, Amanda. So just to clarify, this is not a grant application. It's an application to be, it's like a capstone project for, and I believe it's actually bachelor students in landscape architecture, but that's fine. I have to look it up too. And they're kind of in a professional landscape architecture track, but actually quite a few people that we work with now professionally went through this program and they did a capstone project. So it's kind of fun to look back and see that they're listed as, you know, former students and giving quotes on projects. So we would hope that a Dane County project would be appealing to students that would be local. As far as budget, we asked in this application that the students would kind of help us form a budget based on, you know, here's the scope, you know, how many surveys, public meetings, you know, do you think we need to do wetland delineation or whatever that might be, and have them kind of come up with a budget. So, but we're not paying them really for their time, but probably covering travel expenses, maybe some meals, covering presentation materials, postage, things like that. So, budget sort of TBD, but again, in the CIP right now, what's being proposed was $60,000 to borrow. Of course, still hasn't been approved by the board, but I would imagine this would be significantly less than that. I think when we move, hopefully the deliverable here would be kind of a concept plan and a lot of background information and information from, you know, community engagement and stakeholder interviews. But later on, when we get closer to actually construction and implementation of some of those recommendations, we'd still probably be bringing out a professional landscape architecture firm or civil engineering or something like that, planning firm, to actually do the final kind of design for construction of whether it's a boardwalk or a pavilion or restroom building or something like that. So, but yeah, glad we'll be able to get it in front of the park board this week too. And I did touch base with Rotary couple days ago as well. So they obviously have a long history in Lerner Park, a lot of time and effort put into that park too. So would definitely want to make sure they're a key stakeholder group and would be super helpful in getting the students caught up to speed, and actually learned that Lerner Park was originally a UW capstone project too. So that's how it got started. So kind of a neat full circle moment. Any questions from?
No question, but I'd just comment, this sounds like a really cool idea. Thank you for the efforts.
I just have a question on the process. So that we're looking for a motion to approve this to submit by the deadline, August 9th. But in the interim, the park board needs to review it.
That's a good question. Yeah, the timing is a little funny about this because I found this since the last park board meeting. So, but because the application is due on Friday, we can't go to park board and then come back to village board and get it in time. So the idea is that if village board is interested in it, we'll make sure that the park board feels good about it and then submit the application. It's just a bit backwards.
Okay, so our approval is subject to the park board's approval.
I mean, it could be if.
Is that?
You could make it that way if you wanted to, but
Is that-
not necessarily.
But that would be logical to give them at least some approval on it.
Well, I mean, either way. I mean, it doesn't matter either way. I mean, you could subject your approval to condition that the park board approves it, or you could approve it and then the park board, whether they wanted to do it or not, you have authority over them, so it wouldn't matter. Sometimes this happens where it happens backwards. It's just timing and.
I will also just add that the park board wanted this in the CIP, which comes to
that's my other
us. So it's sort of, we're doing what the park board wanted to do. We're just doing it in a different way than than the park board had originally planned on it. So does that, Jeff?
Yeah, and I was just saying, add a little bit to that is, one of the things like with the CIP, the approval and borrowing and that kind of stuff, this is a chance to be able to kind of get this started literally very, very quickly. And we definitely don't want to, and Elisa said this, don't want to act like this is a replacement over a professional master planning document. However, we do feel like with the expertise that Elise has, I have, and others, to be able to work with us, it's a great opportunity. It's a great project, it's a great opportunity, and this really just fits. And we're looking through the document and talking to them, it really fits well with that. I can't imagine the park board not supporting this. The only thing I think they might be a little concerned with, some members maybe, did we ever talk to that person? Maybe not. About whether or not we're trying to kind of do something halfway or a quarter way just to appease them, and that's not in any way, shape, has that ever been discussed in any of this.
Okay, so a couple of things. I was just gonna say, one of the things that it suggests is a good idea for the capstone, to be considered is to have a steering committee or citizens advisory group, which is typically 2 to 6 individuals. What were we thinking? Who were we thinking those people would be?
The park board
Okay.
is what we listed on the application as our steering committee.
Okay.
And then we listed the village board as the secondary because.
Okay, just wanted to be clear about that because you talked about learner being involved, like the Rotary, thank you, being involved and things like that. And so I just wanted to, I didn't know if it was just the park board or with other people or.
Yeah, the application asked for additional community groups that may be a part of it, and we did list Rotary, so.
Okay, thank you. That was my first one. The second one, I feel like as far as procedurally, as village board, we should say, yes, apply to this. If the park board wants to tweak it or put their stamp on it in some way, that's fine. But I think what we're doing is saying, yes, we're interested in pursuing this, proceed. And I think we have the authority to say that to them. So, am I continuing with this? Okay, all right. I'll just finish this item and then I'll hand it back to Phil. Go ahead,
No.
Tom.
Well, I was gonna make the motion.
Oh, please.
I would make the motion that we direct staff to submit the application by the deadline, August 9th.
Okay, second? Anyone wanna? Okay, Tim seconds. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. 7C, Planning Commission. Certified survey map applications submitted by Kismet Development LLC to divide Oregon Parks Neighborhood Duplex Replat Lot 7-225 Liberty Park Drive into a 2-lot, 0-lot line twin house. Commission and staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. We've done a number of these. Anything to add, Elise? Okay, looking for a motion, Amanda. And second by Lynn. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 2, certified survey map application submitted by Kismet Development to divide Oregon Parks Neighborhood Duplex Replat number 10, 224 North Bergamot Boulevard into a 2-lot, 0-lot line twin house. Commission staff recommendation, motion approved as presented. Appears the same thing. Amanda and Lynn, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I guess item 3 has been withdrawn because the county denied that. So we'll go to item 4. Ordinance number 24-18, ordinance creating section 9.07 sub 3 of the Village Oregon Court of Ordinances relating to the use of construction, repair, and demolition equipment. Commission staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Jason, as motion, and Amanda, staff. Anything add beyond that?
Sure, I can give a little bit of background. So this has been on Jeff and my to-do list for a long time. So construction hours is something that we get quite a few calls about, especially near our residential subdivisions and other larger building projects. Often it's people coming in early and activity happening kind of the early morning hours. There's been sort of an unwritten rule of 7 to 7. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but nothing in writing. So we felt it was finally time to get that, get our arms around that in the ordinance and work with Derek to get a draft together and then had this in front of the Planning Commission twice this summer. Appreciated all their firsthand experience in construction and building and design and all of that to kind of make sure that we were wording things correctly and addressing the issues that we want to address and not addressing other things like people's personal vehicles if they showed up to the work site early but weren't actually starting work, and use of hand tools. We don't want to also be targeting things like the weekend warrior kind of homeowners doing those projects, but really what are the main points of concern here. So gone through 2 rounds of review. Planning Commission recommended this at their July meeting, which was just later in the month, so that's why it's getting here to the August 5th meeting. But happy to take any questions.
Tom?
Just one, so in the event that someone identifies that someone is making noise or doing construction work, the complaint would go to the police department?
Typically, right, since we're not usually working after 7 p.m. or before 7 a.m., so they'd be the ones to kind of check on the site, document. Obviously, we try to start with the education piece first, and if it continues, then proceed with enforcement.
Tim?
I've noticed a lot of construction crews set up music to play as they work. Would this say they can't start playing their music till after 7? I don't think it says that in here.
I think that would just fall under our normal noise ordinance.
Right.
Be your normal loud noise.
Right. It's not a construction activity.
We could add no country western.
I'm in.
Is that legal, Derek?
That's not legal.
Well, I guess
Tom, please.
I guess it also doesn't prohibit somebody from mowing their lawn or running a chainsaw in their backyard, just doing their routine home maintenance late into the night.
Or snow blowing.
Yeah, or snow blowing.
Right. The weed
So-
whackers, the leaf blowers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, we kind of distilled it down to anything that would require a building permit, any kind of activity related to that, or obviously kind of like subdivision, construction, paving of roads, blasting, that kind of thing.
I like,
Amanda, please. Go
yeah, I
ahead.
like your emergency exceptions, you know, obviously if you need to repair a water main at 2 AM, you're gonna use some equipment, sorry, you know.
Correct.
Or, but like, I don't know if that would also apply to like, let's say we get some severe weather and a tree comes down
It would.
and if people are
Yeah.
cutting up, okay, that kind of stuff.
And we've
Alright.
had that happen before. We do not cite for that.
Okay.
We go try to talk to the complainant.
Okay. We have a motion second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you all. Item 8, unfinished business. Item for discussion of possible action. A, new senior center facility design request for proposal process. I think we're going to probably a little discussion before I have a motion here. And I think Jeff Hine is here as the owner's representative. Do you want to jump in, Martin, or?
You gonna take us away, Rachel?
Well, I think we should really hear from Jeff because he's the expert in the room, right? So come on up, Jeff.
down, Jeff.
But you know,
Come
we're
on down,
left at a
yeah.
point, we're left at a point where, you know, it's time to start working on that RFP for design, and there are a couple of different directions the process for that can go. And Jeff can perhaps help us understand the pros and cons of the couple of different options.
So, good evening. I guess just thinking about the overall process, we're trying to, the best we can in a municipal environment, control what's happening on the project. On one end of the spectrum, at some point, we're gonna put together a set of plans and specifications, and we're gonna have a public bid, and we have no control, for the most part, who our general contractor is gonna be. On the very other end of the spectrum, you were able to select me as your owner's rep, and you know what you're getting, and you got a great owner's rep. So I'm somewhere in there, we need to figure out how we're gonna select our design team. And a couple of points would be that this is gonna be a very long process. We're gonna be engaged with these people for a long time. It's gonna be 3+ years before everything's said and done. And then the other thing is that we're hiring them immediately. So we aren't gonna put together a bunch of work product and then define a specific task that we can go out and we can kind of, get a cattle call of people that are gonna be able to respond to a clearly defined task, and we can kind of bid it out. We're going to select somebody right away, and so how do you do that? And we want it to be people that, firms that we're familiar with, we understand their track record. Somebody, whether it's the village, the senior center, or myself, have knowledge, firsthand knowledge or experience with that firm. So that's the idea, and I kind of generated this where if we want to get the benefits of having competitive proposals, we want to gather up information from a bunch of sources because we're going to use that information. But on the other hand, let's kind of focus who we invite to come and respond. Because if one of our qualifications is that one of us needs to kind of have first-hand knowledge of the firm, it's really kind of a disservice if we have a bunch of people put energy into proposals that we don't know, and then they're disqualified because we really don't know them. So this was the idea, is that we focus it on 3 firms and we have them respond. We can get all the positives, but we're not spending a bunch of extra energy, or we're not wasting energy of firms that we don't intend to engage. So, and I think that it was clearly laid out in the memo. Do you guys have questions or concerns about the more focused approach that we're recommending?
Tim?
Do you have 3 specific firms in mind already? Is
I
that-
do.
Are you prepared to talk about who they are or not?
Yes, it's Engberg Anderson, it's OPN, who was the library architectural firm, and then Bray Associates, who I believe did one of the recent school projects here in Oregon. And so we would ask them to come and propose, and then they'd bring the rest of their team. They're gonna have to have civil engineering, structural engineering, MEP engineering. We're asking them to have experts related to senior center, design and construction. And so we're inviting them, they're gonna go out, put their teams together, and then they'll bring us that response.
Jason?
Yeah, this isn't a question for you, but for Martin or Jeff or anybody, someone on staff. I've not heard of this proposal type before. It sounds like it's got a lot of benefits. I'm curious, I'm more familiar with like the wide open bid RFP. Have we tried this process in the village in the past with any projects, or is this going to be a first?
This is more like a QBS type of bidding, or QBS, be careful because it's really not bidding.
Right.
And since it's engineering or design services, it is a service, so it's not a requirement that the village select, like when we bid things out for construction, we're required to go with the lowest qualified bid. Whereas for services like engineering, architectural, that type of stuff, a lot of places use what they call quality-based selection or QBS, which is kind of what Jeff's talking about.
Yes.
That, you know, you're sending it out to people you know are going to do this and do this right. And as an engineer on the other side of the table for a while, I'm very thankful for that, because you don't want to have 10 teams spending countless hours trying to prepare for this when you really only have 3 in mind that you would really consider for something like that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not a bid. They're basically gonna submit qualifications and other information that we're gonna request from them so that we can understand their firm and their capacity to do this type of project. One of those things might be budgets, but those are just gonna help us create our own budget. We're not gonna select based on a budget because, quite frankly, we don't even know what we're building yet. So you're gonna be selecting the design team in a similar fashion that you selected me. You're hiring an expert, consider them consultants. So we're not bidding it out. We're trying to focus our efforts, who we're inviting, and then we're hiring them based on the qualifications.
That clarification is helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jason, I would just add, I think we already do this type of process just in a less formal way with some of our like public works or planning type projects. So like, for example, public works, there's several firms that we work with on a regular basis. We're not necessarily putting it out to the world to bid out for, you know, road construction or
Design,
thank you. Road design or specific project design. Similarly, in planning, we've worked with Vanderwall and a lot of our comp plan, zoning text amendments, but we're working with redevelopment resources now on the downtown plan because of their specialized experience in that. So we just don't build a lot of new municipal buildings, so we haven't really built our team yet of those, you know, architects that we've personally had a lot of experience with. So that's kind of where we're leaning on Jeff's experience with these firms to say that feels like they'd be a good fit for this type of project, and that you know, the relationship would hopefully work well because there are less unknown factors, and knowing how they worked on other projects would be a good fit for Oregon.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 2 options before us. One, send a requested proposal to a targeted pre-qualified group. Or option B, that was option A. Option B, post an open request proposal to the world, as Elise just so eloquently put it. So we're looking for Tom, please.
I would make the motion that we accept option A, or
Okay.
propose option A, and to send a request proposal to a targeted pre-qualified group of 3 architectural firms that would be responsible for assembling a complete design team.
Okay. Amanda, second?
Yep.
Further discussion? Amanda?
Yeah, fine with this time. I think this makes sense because we're trying to not take so long. It's gonna be a long project anyway. Although I'll just say, like, if we consistently do this, then we're really limiting who we do business with to only certain companies, and no one can get into that preferred group, right? So, I mean, I just wouldn't want us to do this with every single large project. But I feel like for this one, I think it's appropriate. But I do like the idea of an open process where more people can apply, for the record.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you all. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Item 8B, review draft 2025 through 2034 capital improvement plan and related preliminary long-range financial impact analysis.
I don't have anything else to add from the last meeting. What's in the packet tonight was what was in your packet at the previous meeting. Nothing's changed. Same schedules, draft schedules, the analysis, and all the associated information. So this will be on for this meeting, and then it'll be on for the next meeting on the 19th, and then it'll also be on for the September 9th meeting as well. So a couple more cracks at this for the board to take a look at, but really what we're looking for the board at this point is if there's any questions that staff can answer about any of the projects, if there's any feedback or any direction on things that maybe aren't in there that you would like to be in there, things that you would like to have move around, or things that you would like staff to take another look at, we're happy to take any and all of that feedback.
Will at some point we go from scenario one to just a scenario? We have scenario one and scenario two at this time. At some point we'll narrow that.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference is just the business part costs. I think for now we'll just assume the most. We'll just assume option B because that's the more conservative one. But certainly, if the board had a strong opinion that we don't want to have those costs in there, we would not have those costs in there then.
Lynn?
So I have a couple of questions. My first question is, the 60,000 that we have set in the CIP for the conservation park planning, will we just keep that? What do we do if, for at least this year, we get selected? Again, all of that is like timed out. I don't quite know. Can we wait until we find out? Can you help me understand what we would do here?
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion is to leave it in the plan as it is. And if we get it and we don't need it, then we don't need it. Usually for a lot of these items, as we've talked about before, we estimate in our CIP using debt. And then by the time that we get to the actual debt process, we go back and evaluate, okay, here's the things that we thought we were going to need to use debt for. Are we actually going to need to use it? And then as we found out this year, turns out $2 million worth of things we didn't need debt for. So again, I would say for the purposes of planning and analysis, you leave it in there because it gives you that really conservative analysis and impact. And then when it comes time to actually do the project and pay for it, and we have a grant for it, then there is no impact at that point.
Okay, so in layman's terms, you're saying that we leave it in, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to borrow that money, just so that everyone can understand
Yeah.
that it will be there, but it may not actually be something we take a loan for at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, the key word in there is plan. So it's just a plan, and this is what we're operating under the assumption of. And then certainly for the out years, 26 to 2034 in this case, this board cannot make decisions for future boards for those years.
Right.
So it's certainly a plan. Now, obviously, there are decisions that you make today that heavily influence some of those decisions in the future, but you can make a decision for the future. But for 2025, What we do is, once this plan is approved or accepted by the board, we take those costs and we build those numbers into the budget. So some of those numbers will, in the budget, they're basically numbers until they're funded. So they may be funded by actual revenue that we designate in the budget, but we may just be keying in like revenue from debt. So then when we get to the actual debt process, and we went through that in the spring here, we take a second look at it and determine, okay, what is it actually going to look like here? What are our funds on hand? Can we use some dollars from somewhere else? And then we refine that and get it to be perfected. So,
Great.
yeah.
Okay, and then I just have one more question. Can you come back and explain to me the Wolf Street Phase 1? So the way that I'm reading this is that next year is planning.
Next year is design.
Yes.
Design, yes.
At 107 levied and 107 grant funded. So a
Yeah,
50-50.
It's a split cost. So since that's a jurisdictional highway, it's actually Dane County Highway.
Mhm.
When we work on those projects, we split the cost with Dane County 50-50, both under the design and the construction.
And then after construction,
It becomes our right of way.
ours. Okay.
After it's been designed, built, and constructed. Yeah, designed, constructed.
And that we broke this into two phases. Phase 1 will go past that intersection by
Past Pleasant Oak, yes.
the middle school.
Yeah, so it includes the intersection design, which will probably be signalized or roundabout at that location. And so it'll carry, basically brings sidewalk and a urban section from Quick Trip Car Wash all the way down just beyond Pleasant Oak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Amanda?
Yeah, so I was looking through some of the capital project purchase worksheets and things like that, and there's some things that jumped out at me, like one, for example, the Elving Gelstrom, I don't know if I'm saying that
Alvin
right.
Kellstrom.
Kellstrom, thank you.
The
Kel-
KJ is silent.
Okay.
No, just kidding.
At the park, there's an ADA accessible water fountain with a dog bowl attachment, and I'm a dog lover and I believe in
Yes.
ADA accessibility, but I'm just curious, like where some of the requests come from? Is that like,
That,
for example?
that's actually a remnant from when we built the park 6-7 years ago. It was something that was kicked around, but it also involved us having to wasn't just as easy as just tapping in and, water main and doing it at the time and the budget and everything. So we just kind of said, we put it in as something we like to add in the park plan. And so a lot of these things through the park plan update, which was just approved this last year, kind of triggered a lot of these things to go into the CIP.
Gotcha.
So each park, if you look at it, has kind of,
The different amenities.
yes, and then what are recommended improvements. So most of that's taken from there. Some of these too, we went through and just, if it wasn't added, like certain parks might be better suited for the pour in place surfacing versus others, just kind of based on accessibility. So we added, again, kind of our best guesses there, but each of these would have their larger projects have the design component first, usually with some kind of community input, going through park board, all of that to kind of determine what amenities are really going to be needed and used.
And there's no water fountain there now? Okay,
No.
that's the main,
Right,
you know,
it was,
kinda thing is-
I think it was one of those things that came in late in the design or bidding. We looked in, just those, like that water fountain alone, just purchasing is about $6,000 to $7,000.
Okay.
And then when you start looking at having to excavate and install, usually kind of double plus cost. And so it was, turning into a $10,000 or $15,000 project and everything, so. But that's kind of one end of our bike path where we don't have a lot of amenities right now, because it's kind of starts there, and it seemed like a good idea.
That makes
at the
more
time.
sense, yeah,
Yep.
like some of the, I just didn't know, cause we're looking for ways that we could save money and things like that. I'm not suggesting we cut that, nobody freak out. I was
Yeah.
just like, as an example, like looking and wondering how some of
We've
the
been
things
okay
make it in
without
there.
it, yeah.
Sure,
We've
sure.
survived.
Okay,
Okay, anybody else? All right, I guess we're gonna move on to the next item. Thank you, Martin. 8C, resolution number 24-23, amending the 2023-2025 Village Board Strategic Plan. Staff recommendation, motion approved as presented.
All right, so this just reflects some of the conversations that we've had at the last couple of meetings in light of the referendum work, taking out some of the substantive goals that were in the plan, of course, adding in the referendum work. I also took the opportunity to just add in a couple of things that we have done. One of the things that has taken up some time this year is the SRO negotiation and new agreement that wasn't anticipated last year when we talked about this plan. So I thought that would be good to recognize that work as a goal. Another thing that was accomplished earlier this year was the composting partnership. That's a goal in our sustainability plan that wasn't previously contemplated in the strategic plan. I think that's kind of nice to note that in this plan is something that was accomplished. And then at the previous meeting, we talked about impact fees and making sure that we update those impact fees that are needing to be updated. That kind of dovetails in with some of our referendum work and just overall financial management. And I think those are some projects that that we should work on here through the end of the year into the early part of next year. So, and then another one too that we've talked about as part of our economic development discussions is extending TID 3. We'll be taking care of that towards the end of this year. So just recognizing that too. So a couple removals, couple additions, just reflecting some of the shifting sands of the last year.
Amanda.
On page 337 of the packet, there's an extra trustee that maybe needs to come out.
I kept him in there, Derek in there because he
Yeah.
was part of the original strategic plan. That was
Okay.
when we developed this
so
last
this
year.
is for the input. Okay.
Yep.
That's
yeah.
fair.
Yep.
Makes sense. I didn't know if you were trying to be accurate listing there, like current, you know what I mean?
For a second, I thought you were trying to kick me off.
No.
Is
No,
that
not you.
That's why
Is that a motion, Tim, or? Tom?
I thought the cover memo did a nice job summarizing the changes within it. The one change that was within it that I didn't note was on page, it's on 349, which is the public input technology effort. That wasn't mentioned in the
Yes.
summary, just so that we all know that's still in there and it's included in.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, I was going to mention that too. Thanks for bringing that up. So this on page 349, this is just an edit to the hybrid meeting conversation that we had at the last one. So this goal here, explore and implement additional public input opportunities for village board meetings, that more reflects the conversation that we had at the last meeting of trying to identify a couple specific things for public input specifically.
Okay, we're looking for Lynn.
The only question I had following up on that item is when I read the time frame, am I reading it as if when we passed it last July? Because if that's the case, then should we put 12 to 18 months on that goal because it's been 12 months? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of grappled with that too on
Okay.
how exactly to do that. We could put 12 to 18 months there if
Just so that the public knows we're still working on it. We, expect to have something hopefully in the next couple of months. Might help.
So we're looking for a motion. This item, Tom and Tim. Okay, further discussion, further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you. Item 9A, items for discussion, possible action. A, Resolution number 24-24, amending the employee handbook with regards to the calculation of overtime, reporting law enforcement contracts, and regular hours of public works. Separate recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Jason and Amanda. Did you have something beyond what's in the memo to?
Nothing beyond the memo. I can answer any questions if you
Okay.
like.
Discussion of this item. Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 9B, Oregon Nature Alliance proposal for native planter bed at the Village Hall. Nice diagram in the packet. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Lynn and Amanda. Questions, comments?
Looks great.
This is a cool partnership.
Absolutely. Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 9C, set September Village Board meeting days due to Labor Day. Staff recommendation, motion to set September 9th and September 16th as a regular Village Board meetings. Jason for motion. Amanda second. Discussion. Lynn.
So this would be 2 Mondays back to back. Does that pose a lot of stress on staff?
Well,
It can.
Okay.
I'll just say there's two reasons why the back-to-back works in this case. One is just because of some referendum stuff and the community survey and the options report. The availability of some of those consultants was only for the 16th in particular. So that was important. And I'll just say too, from a timing and scheduling standpoint, it's easier to deal with moving one regular scheduled meeting, but then you add two. If you move another one, we end up getting a lot. You'd be surprised how many questions and confusion that we end up fielding when you move another regularly scheduled meeting just another week. So just one movement is good too.
That's helpful background. Thank you.
So we're only changing one meeting.
Correct.
Technically,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But we're verifying that.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, reports of village officers, department heads, and consultants. This is for information only. No action by the village board will be taken. A, village administrator report. Questions or comments for Martin? Okay, none. B, police chief report. Notice of revisions to promotion policy, performance evaluations policy, and canine policy. Chief, anything to add?
Yeah, so I don't know how many layers you want me to go into this, but as far as the promotion policy goes, we were doing a review of every single policy we have that's in, compliance with Wiley Ag accreditation. With the promotion policy, it's just getting it up to date with what the police commission is asking of us. So that's up to date. For the performance evaluation, so our staff is very heavily evaluated. And so we took that as a moment to just take a step back and decide what we wanted to do. So just to recap, when they're in field training, every day they're evaluated and a form is completed. Even after they're done with field training, for the 12 months that they're on probation, they're evaluated on a monthly basis. And then once they're off of probation, a yearly basis. I think for your bigger agencies like Milwaukee PD, Madison PD, a mid-year might be a better place for that. Even outside of the evaluation process, our supervisors are watching body camera footage, they're reviewing all use of force, they're reviewing reports. So just felt like this was unnecessary at this point. I talked with our staff, we met. They just don't feel it's an effective tool. So that's a change I made. For what it's worth, it went over very well. They were happy because that allows them to be on the road more, patrolling our village. The canine policy, we were doing a lot of inspections, so we evaluated that and went with a less frequent inspection process. So happy to answer any questions about that. We're pivoting to a better website platform, thanks to the work Candy's doing. So right now, we can't post those, but as soon as we're fully on board with the new platform, all of these updated policies that are available to our staff 24/7 will be uploaded and available to the public. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Chief? No? Well, thank you, Chief. 10C, Village Clerk Report, information about August 13th partisan primary election. Just what's in the packet. Question- Questions? Hearing none. Item 11, announcements and miscellaneous business, announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events, and miscellaneous business. Village board may provide brief statements, but no discussion or action of the body shall occur. Announcements, anyone? Lynn?
I got a couple.
Okay.
So today was the K9 golf outing, and I got to volunteer. It's a really awesome outing. Everyone, it's a ton of work. And so I just want to recognize the work of the PD and the community members and village staff who volunteer. I think it's a great opportunity to see some of the best. Tomorrow is National Night Out, which is also going to be very exciting for kids and adults alike. And then on Thursday and Saturday, we're having the Village of Oregon Child Care Summit. So if village board members would be interested in attending, feel free. We've got lots of people who are going to come. Registration is still open for the Saturday parent session. It's on our website. And hopefully we can get some fun, actionable items coming out of those discussions as well.
Great. Anybody else? No? Okay, 11B, future agenda items. Anyone? Hearing none. Item 12, closed session business, items for discussion and or possible action under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1 sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Attendance is limited to the village board and its discretion, necessary staff, other officers. A, deliberate the investment of public funds, purchasing of public properties and related negotiation strategy for future economic growth and expansion of the village. Of note, the village will reconvene an open session for discussion and possible action on the following business. Commercial buyers agency agreement with Rudabash Commercial Investment. So we're looking for a motion to move into closed session. Jason and Tim, this is a roll call vote.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Mankey?
Yes.
Van Campen?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
And Kirchdorfer.
Yes.
Yeah, we are in closed session. Thank you.